Welcome, everyone, to the GCP review of Eric Hecker's interview on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. You know, I struggled for quite a while on whether or not I wanted to decide if Eric represents a blind squirrel who found a nut, or if he represents a coordination of some type of information that we should get. And the truth is, as I really went through the information, it doesn't matter. What matters is what we can glean from the interview as displayed by the Global Consciousness Project 2.0 instrument right behind me. And it's a way to pull the important part out of an interview. If, in fact, our interview was affecting the GCP2, then what's going to follow this is really what one might say is the meat from the interview, which was when he triggered a fairly high level of network coherence. And so I've wondered whether or not this instrument can help us understand a directionality, if you will, of information. So when this goes off, is this about information being broadcast out or being received in? Or what is the contact modality? Is it a moment in the future that is having a deep interaction with an experience we were having just that moment, or is something else going on? And the answer is, we don't know. All we can do is record the information and do our best down the road to try and decipher what that information may have been encoding. Now, in the interview with Eric, which I'm only going to play about 2 minutes of, so it's right at the end, and you have to hear and see it for yourself. What's interesting is that he triggers this, the literal second that he defines that the director of that discharge is the South Pole Station specifically, like almost at the second, he says South Pole Station is position 1 or position A. Almost at the very second, this thing pops yellow. What's most interesting is when it leaves that yellow state of coherence. And it goes back into what you see now, which is actually a low level of network coherence. And he says, and when it happens, is specifically at the moment where he says that there is a breakaway civilization. The idea that there is a community of individuals who live with a reality and a set of technology that we, the people, don't have. And he has a lot of distaste for them over this, singular policy. If that type of thinking were as important as us understanding how the mechanism aims, where the trigger comes from, and how quickly that will occur, once he said all of that, as if he had lowered, that is, the value of this next piece of information, either in its context or its in overall importance, the network changed back. And so the takeaway is, what's important is that the directed energy weapon in Antarctica at the South Pole Station is meant to be able to discharge instantaneously with a gain, if you will, an increase potentially of the energy it will impact in the target. And the most important part, and this really is the most important part, is that exchange will happen instantaneously. There is no time difference between the push of the button and the discharge of the weapon on the target. So here's that roughly 2 minutes for you to consider of Eric Hecker's, impact, once again, on the Global Consciousness Project 2.0. From Stinky McDougal to my fans, peace out, everyone.
So these would be systems in that regard. So when you talk about transmitting, you're basically talking about delivering energy from the South Pole Station, we'll call it point A, to wherever the hell you want, which is point B. That transfer of power happens from point A to point B, any distance, in no time, with no propagated loss of power. More often than not, there's a gain. This is what Tesla was working with. He used to hate the term when discussing these types of technologies. He didn't like the term radiating of energy to be utilized because it inherently gave the idea of a propagated loss of power, which was the opposite of what he was observing.
I'm
So
familiar
this
with that.
this is what this is what these technologies are doing. They're not doing any of the things people think. They're doing way beyond what you can imagine. These are extremely advanced technologies that they have been rolling ahead of us, probably at least 2 decades for every year that the civilian world has advanced. We have to appreciate that these military industrial complex corporations and worse, um, these many factions that already have had access to these technologies for many decades are just simply using them more than they ever had, and we're caught in the crossfire. That's the current state of the union.
Hmm.
This is what we, the people of the world, need to be concerned about. Is that it's like the term breakaway civilization has been used before. It's like as if there's a whole other society that we're not a part of at all. They have these things. We are not entitled to use them, but we will suffer the effects of them using them against each other with us caught in the crossfire.
Mm-hmm.